Welcome everyone to a casted game of Age of Empires 4, and today spawning on the west side of the map playing in pink, we've got Demu, representing Team Liquid, playing as the Japanese, and his opponent in the east side of the map playing in green, we've got Lash, playing as the Byzantines. Welcome everyone to Himiyama. That is the map for today, featuring obviously civilizations from the Sultan's Ascend DLC and the map from Sultan's Ascend DLC, and we've got an early dock coming in from the Japanese, which is a very standard play, of course, as the Japanese. Very nice fishing economy. Standard cost for the dock, 150 wood, but their fishing ships are incredibly cheap. 25 wood per ship. Compare that to the usual price of 75. That's an incredible saving, you have to say. And that means that food economy is going to be looking very good. Now, the reason why the Japanese are very strong on hybrid maps like this is not only do they get the cheaper fishing boats, but also the potential to get the Cocker Township, giving them access to the Shinobi. The Shinobi have a nice samba charge, ability, and they can apply that on the docks and just keep it completely idled. Now, the question is whether he'll do that today. I don't think there's any pressure for him to do that demo here, because I guess this is counting as a hybrid map, but, you know, he knows that his opponent's not docking here just yet, and that he probably won't be. So the Cocker Township is kind of less likely if you're not going for, up against a civilization that commonly docks on hybrid maps. Now, speaking about the Byzantines, going to be getting that nice early cistern play. Quite a typical build order, actually, for the Byzantines at the moment. Standard opening with the 3 cisterns. It seems like that's what people are leaning towards in terms of an opening. And no difference here today. Now, the reason why I like this matchup, the Byzantines versus the Japanese, is because both civilizations have been starting to be figured out. I think the Japanese generally were figured out a little bit quicker. But the Byzantines are getting there, especially with the Imperial Hippodrome landmark, which is actually one of my favorite landmarks in the new DLC. The reason why I say that is because it's got a triumph ability, which can make the cavalry incredibly strong. What is a little bit challenging, though, for the cavalry, for the Byzantines, going up against the Japanese is no easy task. With great infantry, whether it be the samurai or whether it be the spearman line, they've got some good upgrades as well in the Imperial Age. So if it gets to that stage of the game, well, the Byzantines could have a tough job on their hands. In any case, plenty of sheep coming in, and I just want to see actually how many the Byzantines have, because it's kind of important at this stage, especially because he's not on fish, right? And there's quite a bit of oversaturation there, which perhaps doesn't have as much fish as he would have liked. He's going to need to send out a villager now over to stone and looking to increase that cistern network. Now, speaking about stone, how important it is for the civilizations, it's kind of important for the Japanese in many ways, being able to access the Daimyo Manor, Daimyo Palace, and Shogunate Castle. Going to go for 5 villagers and gold, possibly a fast castle play here by the Japanese. Which is kind of interesting, and it kind of makes sense in some ways, because it's a possibility that the opponent won't be all that aggressive. But, well, the Byzantines can play played a little bit different these days, especially with the Imperial Hippodrome. As we see, is the landmark of choice, so I love this game so far already. Obviously not a lot has happened, but the way it's shaping up to be, it's looking promising. Now, Demu's economy as the Japanese is looking to be probably quite strong, because, of course, 4 fishing ships already out, and he probably won't commit any much more than that, to be fair. There's no real need to necessarily. He's got the shorefish coming in very, very nicely. Now, the one thing about the Byzantines, what they had the option to do with pressuring, like in this stage of the game, you've got 2 options, right? You can either go for the dock, or you can go for the main base. Now, I would actually probably err on the side of going for the main base, maybe harassing this gold vein, because it takes quite a long time to be burning down the dock, even with just like 2 or 3 horsemen. It just takes a long time, and by the time you kind of get out there on the field, like whilst Lash will be into the Feudal Age a little bit quicker, although not by much, to be fair, because Demu's building his landmark by 7 villagers, and that is a lot, so he won't be too far behind. But most importantly, by the time he gets out here, Demu's going to be in that Feudal Age, so he can afford a galley or 2 just to push any sort of infantry or melee unit away, which would be the horsemen, of course. So it does make sense to really go straight for this gold vein, ideally here, for Lash, to attack that area and see if he can do some damage. The landmark, the Cura Storehouse, is probably one of my favourite landmarks as well. I think these 2 landmarks, Cura Storehouse and Imperial Hippodrome, are very, very strong, especially because you get free farms. Like, there's nothing to hate about that, really. And they do have garrisonable spots. Only 8, but it's enough. Especially when you compare, consider how tightly packed the economy is. Holy moly, that villager is a little bit lost and not knowing what to do. That's a bit of awkwardness. So pathing is clearly still an issue sometimes. Well, it's going to hopefully fix itself at some point. Maybe Demu might recognize, yeah, it's fixed it now. But certainly with this number of villagers and gold, it could be a fast cost, but not necessarily, to be fair, because he could be looking to get those all-important upgrades. He's getting the baby wheelbarrow, as I like to call it, Going to get the second version of that, by the way. He got Tawara in the Dark Age. Now getting Takazaiku. Going to be increasing the capacity for the villagers carrying the food or whatever they're collecting. And also the movement speed. And also increasing the gather rate from the berries. So if he does want to kind of expand his economy to that for the food, he will be able to pretty nicely. Now there's that system network extending itself very nicely for Lash and the Byzantines. Water level 3 does mean that his villagers will be gathering a good extra much more efficiently. Well, 15% is pretty decent. And of course his production will be increased as well, quite significantly. With the Conscriptio, you see that water level 3 giving a 60% extra production. And interestingly enough, Lash actually went for the option of taking down the dock, but I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, like, all it really needs is Demu to get a military ship, which is, to be fair, I mean, it is an investment, right? So it doesn't come cheaply, and so, well, Byzantines are forcing the Japanese to get an archer ship. But again, it's not all that bad, because that means that Demu should have that nicely protected for the rest of the game. Has a farming transition as well. Now, the thing I love about the Japanese is food is never really a problem for these guys, right? He's got the fish in this hybrid map, but even if he didn't, it's got the free farms. And it makes it a really nice transition to military production buildings as well, because of course you save a lot of wood. And doesn't have to venture out either, so you can play a very condensed economy, which is actually pretty useful against the Byzantines that have opened up cavalry, of course. Mobility for the Byzantines could be a big threat for civilizations that do have to venture out in the field, but you know, the Japanese, they just don't have to do that. There we go. Well, plenty of villages on food. It does feel like he's kind of itching towards that castle age, but at the same time, he's getting those production buildings, right? Double barracks. So it's kind of telegraphing that actually really can play a heavy feudal age. But it's curious to see a lot of villages on gold. He wants those tech ups very quickly. Getting ironed on the mesh, and he's rocking and rolling. But taking about rock and rolling, holy moly, he's going to get water level 4. It's pretty fast already there by Lash. He's got quite a few units on the field. Unfortunately, hasn't been able to do all that much damage, which is a bit of a concern, by the way, because when you factor in, like, he's invested quite a lot of resources in the military, whereas Demu hasn't really done as much, and he's been able to get those eco upgrades. Now, just bear in mind that the overlay there on the top left isn't actually accurate for the Japanese. A bit bugged out, really, because they don't have the unique text there. So obviously, it's still got wheelbarrow there on the top left, but obviously, wheelbarrow is not something the Japanese can get. Alrighty, galley is out there. Well, not it's actually the junk, really, but the archer ship would have pushed all those horsemen away, and half health on the dock, but it doesn't really matter, right? As long as it's up and running, it's absolutely fine. Alright, I guess there's not much happening here, so I guess I'll take this opportunity to say a very big thank you for everyone who's supporting the channel, whether it be on YouTube or Twitch. You guys have been absolutely amazing. I've been streaming a lot more on Twitch these days in this particular game, guys. Hello on Twitch, because I am streaming, of course. And it does make for a very nice experience, especially talking between the games, about the games, and talking to you guys. It makes it a lot nicer than just, you know, going offline and casting and then bish bash bosh uploading it up onto YouTube. But either way, if you're watching on YouTube, maybe think about following on Twitch if you want to catch me live. And maybe I'll see you there. If not, then still enjoy the videos, because I usually just make sure all the best content that I do for caster games actually make it to YouTube. I do cull a lot of them. I don't necessarily post everything, because some games you cast, they just aren't that great, and, you know, no one wants to watch boring games, you know. Alright, well, pretty similar economies, right? But when you factor in that Demu's had the fishing for quite some time, that's such a nice food income for him. Speaking of which, let's take a look at that. You see 800 food per minute. Now, granted, he did have a few extra villages on food. Good 4 villages extra, which is quite a nice bonus. Couple of hardened samurai getting across the field now. And the horsemen should be okay to deal with this, but the consideration is that the hardened samurai is a really nice unit for the Japanese. It also has a shield on top of it, which makes that the first attack that it takes there, as you saw, it doesn't actually suffer any damage on that, by the way. Takes engagement with the horseman there. Lash trying to get as many of numbers as he possibly can, using the triumph ability, which is actually really crutchy. He tried to take away a horseman there that was weak. Takes out 2 of them, lets them heal up a little bit, brings it back in. So it's a nice micro there for Lash. And he should actually be able to clear this up, especially when he's got 2 Keshiks. Went up with the Eastern Mercenary contract, going to give him access to Keshiks, the Gulam, and the Tower Elephants. But that's a nice cleanup there by Lash, gotta say. I think it's a big difference maker, that triumph ability. I think the fight goes a totally different way without it. And I think the addition of the Keshiks is really strong, because the samurai, rather, the regular samurai, as a feudal age unit, it's very strong, right? Because it's a heavily armored unit that, well, it's akin to, say, like the early man-at-arms that the English and the HRE get. Does snipe a village on that wood line, which is really nice with those archers there. Byzantines being aggressive, and look, I mean, this is showing you how Byzantines can be played very differently. Often hailed as a sort of a late game civilization. Well, he's pushing. He's packing a punch. Does send a couple of the hardened samurai there, Demu. Just see how much value you can get, but he's not going to be able to get all that much. Archers are going to try and kite down the hardened samurai, but bear in mind that these guys, they do tank a lot, especially with the iron undermesh upgrade. The archers don't do all that much damage, so he's going to have to tank as much as he can with the horseman and use the triumph ability if he can. He's going to have to back off for now, and it gets to the stage of the game where if you have a mass of these units, it can be very difficult to deal with, right? You kind of have to take engagements smartly and kite as much as you can. Now, there's a bit of missed micro potential here. As I say, that Lash does actually start doing that. But you can see these guys are barely taking any damage, right? It probably has to like 10-shot them to be able to get one of those guys down. And this is where things become a bit tricky, right? Because especially when you add in the katana bannerman, which is so strong for the Japanese, by the way, increases the attack damage by 15%. He's attacking in the north as well. There's a lot of villages there for Lash. Could be pretty exposed, and I'm not so sure if he has textiles. He doesn't, so that could be a couple of villages lost there. Has lost 2 already. About to lose some more. Keshik's going to be riding in just to try and protect them as much as he can, but Demu gets a couple of kills, and in the south, he engages quite nicely. The horseman going to tank for the archers on the backline, but this is a fight that Demu wins. He straight up wins this. No triumph can save him here. Does lose the katana bannerman. And the samurai is still in good numbers. You see here as well, like, the samurai that has the white bar on top of it, like, all his archers can shoot it, and he just won't suffer any damage for that first volley of attack, right, which is so strong. He's out on the berries, want to be getting that olive oil as much as he can here, Lash. It's a good opening, but of course the samurai, as a strong unit in the feudal age, does push it back, and that kind of accounts to the amount of gold that it was gathering in earlier. We were kind of hypothesizing, was it for upgrades? Well, it was for samurai in the end. But he is looking to get that castle age soon, although he's going to be losing a lot of his army if he's not careful with them. It does back away for now, tries to regroup, and actually this is going to be a nice group of army, especially when you factor in the shields, right? Now, for the micro nerds out there, you might need to actually think about maybe just trying to get one archer to shoot each of the samurai that has a shield, rather than all the archers shooting one samurai. That'll take away the shield. It's just a bit of a better engagement early on, right? But imagine trying to do that. It's probably near on impossible. But Demu, well, whilst he's got Castle Age on the back of his mind, he's looking to be aggressive here now, and why wouldn't you really? He's going to be engaging. The Keshiks are going to be on the hill. They have the high ground. But again, with this number of archers, like, it looks scary, but actually, if you're the samurai, they tank quite a lot. Quite a few villages there, trying to go on the deer camp, but this is a problem for Lash, because he's kept idle there quite a bit. And certainly he will win that fight in the end, but he's lost a fair few villages, 9 in total. And Demu will be very happy about that. Now, the one concern for Demu is that whilst he's taking up to the next stage, when you do take up, you've invested a lot of resources into it. It does leave you a little bit prone, a little bit exposed to being attacked. And well, Lash, he does have a decent number of army now. I think if you're Lash, you've got to be aggressive, right? He just took a good fight. He must know that his opponent is probably a little bit weakened. And this is the time to go. Now behind this, he is also getting the Daimyo Palace upgrade. So went for the Daimyo Manor and then the Palace. And that's going to be increasing the gathering rate of these farms by 50%. That food economy is going to be absolutely beautiful for the Japanese. You can see it's almost double than the Byzantines. And, well, that food is going to be supplementing that castle age and also the units that it's going to produce now. And don't forget as well, it's going to be having access to the Yorishiro from that floating gate landmark to deposit in. Usually the forge, to be fair, has already deposited one. So it's going to be getting 75 gold from that. Very much similar to a relic. But you can see the archer's barely doing any damage. Now Lash has got a decision on his hand, right? He's going to look to try and do some damage as much as he can, but he's got to be careful not to lose all his army. The reason why I say that, because he's still in the feudal age, right? He's not teched up to the castle age. If Lash loses all his army here, he could be very exposed to the samurai, which will be very much castle age units very soon. Demu pumping them out. He's got defender's advantage as well, but these are veteran samurai. So he's actually fighting against castle age units, but he's going to be outnumbering. That's the key bit of detail. The thing is, the Keshik numbers are pretty low, and he's just fighting with archers now. It does have a nice ball of archers, but you can see the samurais are tanking well. If the katana bannerman gets up close and personal, those archers could be losing a lot of their health. But he's going to have defender's advantage. You can see the number of units coming out for Lash. He has no intention of going... Well, he has intentions of going to the castle age. Of course he does, but he needs to get some more units. He needs a standing army to try and hold on from this push that's going to be coming in from Demu very, very soon. Katana Bannerman does go down. Samurai going to be taking that front lines. This is a decent fight for Lash. He does have a lot of the meat shield. The Keshiks obviously healing themselves and can also use the Triumph ability. And I think, make no mistake about it, the Triumph ability is incredibly strong. Not only does it increase the attack speed of the, well, I think it's attack damage actually. Yeah, it's attack damage by 25%. It also makes them heal a bit. Now, that was a clear fight there, obviously, that Demu would have lost. And the good thing for Demu, though, behind all of this, you might be thinking, well, he's taking 2 bad fights right now. But actually, ultimately, he's kept Lash away from his base, which is actually exactly what he needed to do. He needed to survive that Feudal Age push from Lash. He's done that. Now he can breathe. Now he can get some relics. And now he can deposit the Yorishiro from the Floating Gate landmark into whatever he wants. He's gone for one on a barracks, by the way. That's actually really significant, by the way, because take a look at this. This barracks is going to be producing at 200%. He's really going to pump out these units. And the reason why I love the Japanese, they have such a strong timing push. And the reason why I say that is because they've got a very nice combination between economy and military production. The economy comes live when they get the Daimyo Palace, and also comes live when they get the Yorishiro inside those production buildings. Now, behind all this is getting important upgrades. Getting the increased melee damage, of course, as you expect from the blacksmith, but also getting Adachi, equipping the samurai with a longsword that deals +4 damage against infantry. So, like, the Byzantines can't afford to go for Varangian guards, nothing like that. It's going to be really tricky for them because infantry also is going to be including archers. And so if these samurai get on top of those archers, it's going to be an absolutely devastation. Like, he just can't get close to these samurai with those archers. If he engages in any sort of melee fight, it's so tough. And this is where the Japanese become really strong, because not only they're pumping out loads of units, those units are premium units and are very difficult to deal with. If they get even close to you, it's a bad situation. So it might be cavalry on the field here for the Byzantines probably, and it is in the form of the cataphracts. But don't forget, these cataphracts are very expensive. He's going to dive in with the Keshiks, trying to act as a meat shield, allow the archers to do their thing. But this is why the Japanese are strong, because it's similar to the English and the HRE. Their army scales so nicely from the Feudal Age to the Castle Age. They transition so nicely. Like, he was producing man-at-arms in the Feudal Age, and he just has to upgrade them, right? Whereas the situation for the Byzantines, he was producing archers, which sure is upgrading to the veteran status, but in the Castle Age now, they're kind of useless. Like, they're barely doing any damage here, despite the numbers. Like, did you just see that? How much damage it did to that Katana Bannerman? Almost nothing. And this is where things become really difficult, because, I mean, he's got units on the field here, Lash, but they're all pretty much redundant. The samurai are going to charge in for Demu, and he's going to take a massive fight and probably come out on top of it. Although, if he does get a couple more cavalry units on the field, he'd be okay, Lash. If he gets a couple of crossbows, might help him. He's going to engage her. Demu should be winning this fight, although he might lose a pathing issue here. It's kind of hurting him a bit. The Byzantines are struggling, but he's getting good damage output, especially underneath the town centre. So he'll be okay for now, but he has taken some casualties. The Triumph ability actually coming in clutch, by the way, for the cataphract in particular. Keeps the cataphract alive. That's actually a really big bit of detail. Use the trample ability as well with that single cataphract. Does take out the 2 katana bannermen. Of course, he won the fight in the end, but he did take some losses there, Lash. Now he needs to find a way to deal with the reinforcements that will no doubt be coming in. And it's going to be a switch to Onobagesha for the Japanese. I love this switch, by the way, because what it does, like, he can tell that the army for the Byzantines is very static. Like, there's only 1 cataphract, only 1 cavalry. It means that these archers, they just don't have that much mobility. And the reason why that's so significant is because the Japanese now, with the Onobagesha, they can go right to the top of his base. They can go to the bottom of it. They can go anywhere they want. And it's very difficult to stop that massive onset. Like, you can see that Onobagesha impeding onto the north. There's a bit of an exposed economy. And, like, sure, there's an outpost there, but there's not enough space to garrison them all, those villages, and it's going to be difficult. A good thing for Lash, though, is that his archers have now become relevant again, because technically the Onobageshas are supposed to be countered by knights and they're supposed to be countered by archers. So that's one thing that's actually in the favor of Lash, and the fact this tech switch has happened. But the speed of these guys, these ladies I should say, really, look how fast they are. They do get mowed down, as you just saw there. I mean, I don't know if this is the intention that he's going to fight like this, melee, like straight on. I thought it was going to be more of a raiding unit, but in any case, he does fight head on. He does take out quite a few of those Keshiks, so not too bad in the end. And the one good thing about the Onobagesha is they gap close really quickly, right? So it's very difficult to kite them, because if you stop for a second, they're on your tail, right? And it's really difficult, especially when you've got the Katana Bannerman adding in the extra damage output. But with good micro, Lash will deal with this, and he will be going back home safe and secure. Now, behind all this, though, with all this map control, Demu has got 4 of the relics, 1 more coming in. If he gets all 5 relics, the gold income is going to be incredibly strong for Demu. Behind all of this, though, Lash has kept up a little bit with economy. And don't forget, his villagers have been working faster, or more efficiently. He's probably up to water level 5 by now, I would have thought. He is indeed. So it's going to be the full bonus the villagers can get at 25%. But up in the north, I wouldn't be surprised if it's on Baghatia. It is exactly that. And it's going to push those villagers off of food. Now, the problem for Lash is that he's going to have to get all these villagers away from that exposed economy. He's going to have to get it in a transition into olive groves, which he doesn't really have the wood to do so. Getting a second town centre just to build up the economy once again. The Baghatia are going to dive in. Of course, they will lose their lives, but they might be looking to take a couple of villages or two in the meantime in the south. Well, Lash is looking to mount a response with leading charge with the cataphract, which has got a crazy trample ability, by the way. It's so nice to see. But it's very difficult to afford many of these guys. They're very expensive. Yeah, up in the north, he's dealt with that bit of a raid, but Demu's got to be careful, actually, not to be overrun, because look at the military numbers here, 56 to 34. Demu's been macroing quite heavily, and he's been using a lot of units, right? So one thing about raiding like that with Baghatia, he loses a lot. Sure, he gets some villagers, which is great for the medium to long term, but in the short term, he loses numbers. And that's what he needs right now. He needs numbers to be able to defend this push. And the trouble is with Baghatia, they're going to be mowed down by those archers. This is looking actually a little bit bad for Demu. Lash with the archers scaled really quite nicely, in a way. I don't know, this is a very big commitment, by the way, to Baghatia. I'm a bit surprised by it. He was getting good value with the samurai, but he decided to switch against it and change his mind. I guess he saw a lot of crossbows. In any case, he's not looking to get the Yumi Ashigaru himself, the archer version of, well, the Japanese archer version, I guess. Leading the line with a couple of katana bannermen, and the Baghatia, you can see how fast they are. The samurai finding it difficult to catch up, and they're going to be hacking and slashing as much as they possibly can. In the north, he does have one of the sacred sites, by the way, Demu, so 5 relics and 1 sacred site. Lash has really struggled with those mid-map objectives, and that could bite him later on in the game. If the game gets extended into the late Imperial Age, you know, these relics are coming in handy. Take a look at the gold that's coming in for Demu. 1,200 gold. And he probably doesn't even have, I mean, I think he does have, yeah, he doesn't have, wait a minute, what? He doesn't have a single village on gold. That's absolutely insane. When you factor in the relic gold that's coming in, as well as the sacred site, as well as the Yorishiro inside the forge. Like, I thought he only had 1. It feels like he only had 1, but he must have more, right? I guess the gold income's coming in and down now. But yeah, it's a heck of a lot of gold coming in passively. And that's absolutely huge. But big fight on the hill, and well, they're kind of backing off for now. The trouble for Lash is, it feels like he's on a timer, right? Economy for Demu just so much stronger now. Lash is on a second town center. I wonder if Demu did the same, actually, because he's not, I mean, he doesn't even, yeah, he's not actually doing the same. He's just being able to keep up, right? He just killed more villagers, which is kind of nuts. In the north, oh, villagers coming out to try and wall up here for Demu. That's a lot of villagers, guys. They're exposed. He's going to try and protect them with the Baghatia. Trying to carve out the map. In the south, though, Lash is looking to be aggressive. Pick off reinforcements. I like this, actually, because a lot of the army there for Demu is in the north. But Lash is forcing the fight in the south with the Keshiks and with the archers. The samurai getting on top of those archers, and that's a problem. The Keshiks need to be focusing on that, actually, because a lot of the samurai are going to be ripping apart those archers. Don't forget, he's got a dachi, and give them the extra +4 attack on infantry units. He's going to ride in with a couple of Keshiks just to get as much value as he can. Now, he did get the stone walls up in the end, but not without losses. 18 villagers have been killed so far. On Baghatia, going to be ceding that deal, but take a look at this. He's taking some bad losses here, Demu. Especially on the front lines. Take a look at the farming economy. Going to be idled a little bit, which doesn't help. But the one thing about the Japanese, it reminds you of the English. It's so hard to kill them off because of the Shogunate Castle. This Shogunate Castle is absolute beefcake. Take a look at that. 13,000 HP. Not to mention the 8 × 3 ranged attack. And don't forget the rocket damage coming in too. 80 damage. 110 versus infantry and cavalry as an extra bonus. It's absolutely bonkers. It's so hard to push. You've got to get siege. You can't dive in with military. If you do that, you just lose them. Speaking about losing them, well, Demu's losing a lot of the Baghatia, I've got to say. It's a lot of resources that he's kind of throwing away, but if there's one thing that the Japanese do well, it is throwing resources away. Pump out units very quickly, but they can also gather the food really quickly. 1,400 food, rather, coming in per minute. Oh, there's quite a few villagers there. Oh, this is bad. Demu, oh, those villagers, they're going to die very quickly. A lot of archers there. That's a massive pick-off. Holy smokes, that is a lot of villagers. Guys, I don't think any of these survive. I mean, even if they do... Well, no, I don't think they do. Not with the Keshiks coming in from the south. Holy moly. That's not good. Let's get the charge attack. It feels like he almost has textiles, but in any case, he does lose so many. On Baghatia. Trying to push this army back. Lash deals with most of it. And it's going to continue to be aggressive now around the back of the base on a Bagation diving in. The good thing for Lash is he does have a cataphract which does go down, which is unfortunate for him, but he's got a couple of archers, that's the main thing. And he's going to take care of those in the end. But this is great aggression by Lash. Look at that, a military number, 65 versus 20. He's been taking some good trades for a long time now in this game. It was a bit sketchy for him at the beginning of the game, but I've got to say for the last sort of 15, 18 minutes, the fights he's been taking here, Lash, have been absolutely phenomenal. And that's going to continue to be the same way, especially if he kites these on a Bagation. He's got to do it, though. Trouble for him is his samurai are on the chase, and he doesn't feel optimistic about this. But trouble is, if he doesn't just fight, he just loses them anyway, because they're on a Bagation. Obviously, with that movement speed, they're hacking and slashing. And they're doing it well. He does turn around and fight, tries to get the separated out as much as he possibly can. That's wise. Increasing the damage output, of course, because the on a Bagation can't be at two places at once. Well, they're pretty fast at doing that. And he will be able to... I mean, the samurai will tank a lot of this. He probably should clear this up with the archers, but he's not going to be left behind with much. If anything, actually. We'll have to see. In any case, well, it looks like Lash is trying to wall down the south. He's slowly making his way there. It would be nice for him to get the sacred side. I've got to say, behind all of this, by the way, the gold income passively for Demu is so efficient for his economy, right? And a couple more samurai coming in, and the archers will be going down soon. They're just going to hold the lines for now in the north. Plenty of stone coming in. It could be possibly seeing a... Well, I can't see a keep in the castle age. Japanese don't get it. What I do see is Lash trying to burn his way through with the Cairo Siphon. That's a special type of fire this is. Greek fire that can apparently burn stone too. But this army here for Lash is looking kind of bonkers. The one thing I'd say is that it's not hugely high value in terms of what it could be. It does actually have a couple of gulams now sprinkled in. Of course, it's a lot more high value than the Japanese, but the Japanese just don't have the numbers. But he does actually have quite a few counterfacts. I'd love to see this. Going to get a couple of tramples in there, hopefully. We shall see. Now, behind all of this, does Demu think about going to the Imperial Age? Like, he's really far away on the food count. So perhaps not. Now, one little bit of detail, by the way, is this. So I'm a bit concerned for Lash because he's getting a lot of counterfacts, right? Now, if the Japanese go for this tech in the Imperial Age, Nagayari, that's going to be increasing the attack by the weapon range, by the way, 20% for the spearmen, and also the damage against cavalry by 20%. So as if they weren't good enough for cavalry against cavalry as it is, like when you factor in that upgrade on the spearmen plus the 15% extra damage from the katana bannerman, that can be absolutely devastating. So we'll see if that actually factors into this game or not. I think if you're a Demu, you got to opt for that because there's a heavy cavalry push coming in from the north. I mean, there's still a lot of infantry as well, so I think Lash has done well to kind of mix it all up. Makes it a bit difficult for Demu to really commit to one thing. I think it's got to be samurai, and maybe add in a couple of spearmen there as well. Adding the on a Bagation, essentially all infantry. I think a full infantry play works quite nicely here for Demu because of the fact there's no mangonels on the field. The problem for Demu is that, well, his army would be countered by a couple of mangonels if Lash decides to go and do that. He'll be pushing this down in the south. The trouble is he's got an army coming up in the north, and does he have the reinforcements to deal with that? He's going to have to regroup and re-establish himself at home. Going to push in the front though in the meantime. But the army count looking to be a bit more healthier now for Demu. It wasn't at some point. Now he has actually transitioned into a second town centre for Demu as well, trying to keep up on the village count. Not a bad move. I'm not sure exactly when that came up, but obviously the village count looking very healthy for Lash. Using the triumph ability on that front line, but he's going to lose a lot here. The samurai on the Bagation getting so much damage out of this. He should be able to clear this up, especially with the defender's advantage in the end. Around the back of the base, take a look at this. He's burning things up, and Demu's got to be careful not to lose too much of his infrastructure. He might just... That's a lot of units there for Lash. 85 versus 44. Demu losing pretty much everything on the front lines. He really committed hard. And he can't run away now because those cataphracts will deal with them. Might even use the trample ability. Does he have some? It doesn't seem like it. Yeah, he does actually. He's not going to use it for now. He's going to rely on the raw DPS because he's focusing on the front lines. A couple of units there looking to defend for Demu, but doesn't really feel like it's enough. Like we talked about it before though, the Shogunate Castle is super strong. He can't get too close. If he does, he will be pushed out of there. But 5 relics certainly feeding that Japanese economy very nicely. And trouble for Lash is really struggling on gold actually. He's going to have to venture out a bit further out. He's going to have to go for one of these exposed gold veins. I mean, he does have the map control for now, so it might be a good time to do it now, whilst he still can. But bear in mind, he has invested a lot into counterfacts. The trouble for Lash is that if he loses this army, which is a huge one by the way, if he does lose it, it's very difficult for him to replace. And the reason why I say that is he doesn't have gold coming in. That's the big detail here. Demu, on the other hand, he's got plenty of resources. The trouble for him, he needs to get those unit numbers up, and he needs to get it fast. Here come the Kyrie Siphon, 2 of them building up and about to push in very soon, I would have thought. But take a look at the farming economy. Demu up to 1,300 food per minute. Which, surprisingly enough, actually the Byzantines are keeping up with. I wasn't expecting that. But the olive groves are pretty special, especially when you factor in the extra good bit of efficiency, 25% from the water level 5. This is looking dangerous. He's kind of sandwiching him in here. Coming in from the left and the right. This is a problem for Demu. 3 Kyrie Siphons on the left. A couple more coming in from the right with the cataphracts as well. He's going to be overrun, but the trouble is there's no siege in terms of ranged siege, because if the Kyrie Siphons do get close, the Shogunate Castle might dish out a lot of damage on them. It does make it a bit tricky. There is a mangonel, so I like that play by Demu. Needs to keep it protected though if he can. Does get a good shot on them, but look at the farms being burnt alive on the east side. Those cataphracts are diving in. The trouble is cataphracts, yeah, the longer you stay underneath that town center, the worse it gets. But 2 mangonels for Demu. One might be lost pretty soon. It is lost. But the Cura Store house going to be burned down. Demu try and take those Kyrie Siphons out. If he does, then that becomes a really bad fight for Lash, because he's dived underneath the Shogunate Castle. He's lost a lot. And that push won't be sustained without the Kyrie Siphons. Does lose the one on the left. Still got one on the right. Samurai trying to push away those archers. They probably will tank for quite a while. I think he holds here, Demu. I think this is the usage of these units. The Samurai, they're doing such great work. Incredibly strong, and it does have the blacksmith upgrades. Gives him some breathing space there on the west. He will lose the army there, the Samurai, but on the east, this is where the big problem is. Villagers on that wood line going to be slaughtered by the 2 cataphracts, 3 cataphracts in fact. This is looking really rough, but make no mistake about it. The Japanese, they play such a condensed economy. They can hold. He's got 5 relics. He's got gold income pretty much guaranteed. Not huge amounts, but enough to keep him going. And the armed composition for Lash, primarily archers on the left. If you can send a couple of samurai there, it'll be fine. He's got a mangonel as well to push things back. And Lash, behind all this, is going to try and get a keep on the front lines just to establish that map control. On top of that gold vein, he needs to get this gold off the map though quickly, because Demu has a lot of gold in the bank, and that will hold him for a while. The trouble is Demu won't be having that super long, sustainable, great amount of gold in. He does have the relics, which is great, but it might not be enough. You have to see if Lash can punish him for that or not. The map control, he's established, is pretty strong, but he needs more units to finish this off, you think. The siege is a nice option for Demu. He needs to keep it protected if he can. Now bear in mind that the cataphracts do have the good old trample ability. So even if Demu has infantry in front, the cataphracts might just trample through, try and jump on that siege. Walling up extensively in the north, getting access to that wood. There's the gold coming in now for the Byzantines, and Lash heading forward with quite a few units, quite a lot of cataphracts, but just to kind of give you an idea how much these guys cost. It is not cheap. Over 300 resources. We're taking down the samurai. And a good thing about the cataphracts is they will counter the samurai. Demu's really struggling here. 22 military. He's just not being able to keep up with the farming and the food, which is kind of surprising. When you're factoring these farms are gathering 75%, he did lose a lot of that economy, right? So he had to rebuild those farms. But he is continuing to get those veteran samurai, which are relatively cheap, by the way. He needs numbers, though. Slow and sustained push here for Lash, getting an outpost for that vision in front of the keep, getting a couple of Kyrie Siphons, a couple of Springles as well. I think Springles will do well to get rid of those mangonels if you can. But take a look at this. It's going to be the foreign engineering company here for Lash, and that's going to give him some really nice siege units. The Hui Hui Pao, the Nesta Bees, the Royal Cannon in his disposal. Oh, a bit of an outpost rush coming up in the north. Lash trying to keep this gold safe. Demu trying to keep it out of his reach. Now, he does have a lot of villages here, by the way. Could commit with outposts. I think he has to, right? If he gets an outpost here, it will deny that gold, which is a nice play. But we do see a mangonel placement coming in for the Byzantines. That could be a problem. I'm not sure if that outpost goes up in time. Those villages might have to go on the other side. If it does go on the other side of the outpost, it might go up. He's got to be careful, though, because that mangonel placement could do some damage. Uh-oh. Hold the phones. Brace yourselves. Huge amounts of damage. He's not going to be able to take another shot there. Demu needs to back away. He does lose just one in the end. Holy moly, that was close. A lot of weak villagers, though. Speaking of weak villagers, if there are any weak villagers in the main base, they're going to be sniped by these cataphracts down in the south on the wood line. Demu getting to that... well, Lash getting to the Imperial Age. Demu not really getting close in that regard, but the one thing for Lash in this consideration going to the Imperial Age is definitely one play, but he did just put a lot of resources into that, right? It gives Demu a bit of a breathing space to build up again. So I don't know how I feel about that. It could have been another option just to be aggressive in the castle age. He's at full population though, to be fair, but this is where things become interesting, right? Because Demu does have quite a bank of resources. His army's building up again, and he's playing quite a condensed economy anyway, so he doesn't have to venture out into the map too much. As long as he holds the next push, it might be okay for now. That is a big if. Up in the north, well, neither player getting the gold. Well, Demu saying, look, if I can't get the gold, neither can you, and Lash is going to have to find another spot. Of which there are plenty. I love this bit of detail, actually, the cataphract just hanging out on the gold, making sure that Demu can't get any extra, but with 500 gold or so coming in, it's not all that terrible for Demu. Don't forget as well, if he does get some more forges and more yorishiro and deposited in them, it's technically sort of an infinite source of gold extra. So gold doesn't necessarily have to be a problem, but as long as he deposits the yorishiro inside, he'll be fine. The north, going to take the engagement, gets the cataphract, does have the spearman in the play, and I think Demu is opting to go to that imperial age, which actually is not a bad play, especially if he gets the upgrades to the spearman. Those cataphracts will be absolutely useless. Again, especially because he's playing condensed economy, right? Makes sense playing spearman. It's a lot easier to do so, right? Because they don't have to run around as much. And they can slowly push out. It's going to go up with the Tanegashima gunship. The reason why this is a big concern here for the Byzantines, if there's one broken unit, I think in the new DLC, it is the ozutsu. Especially because they get 5 for free at the start of the Imperial Age. They've got amazing splash damage. And they're beefy guys too. He's going to burn his way through, but look at this. Demu's going to get in position. And he's immediately going to queue up something. What's going to queue up? Yeah, he immediately queues up the ozutsu. 5 free units. These guys pack a punch. Take a look. 35 damage. 130 plus for buildings. We've got 6 ranged armor, 6 melee armor. So even if you get close, it's hard to do damage. Springles trying to get in position for Lash, trying to take out the mangonels. Mangonels do deploy, get a couple of hits on the Cairo Siphon. The Spearman about to brace. Trouble is, cataphracts can't really deal with those Spearmen. I think he's got to find another way here. Lash, it doesn't suit him to be fighting out in a closed choke point like this. He does have a couple of Springles of his own here, Demu, so he should be fine to deal with this. All of a sudden, like, Demu has a lot of army. He can take out the 2 Cairo Siphons. That siege is not enough here for Lash. He's going to have to back away. He's got plenty of resources. The question is, can he do anything with it? I think Demu is safe here in the south, at least for now. Getting those elite upgrades. That's something that's in his favor, though, because it will take a bit of time for some of these elite upgrades to come in. Well, he's already got it for the Spearman. Does he have that tech? Does he have that special tech? We shall see. He does. He took it. He took it in the end. So these guys are going to be... Oh, my God. The Spearmen are going to be absolutely disgusting. Take a look at this. Plus 34. Plus 34 versus cavalry. Oh, man. He can't get close. Cataphracts, he's got to switch. Like, he can't take a straight fight. Like, at this point, cavalry will only be good for raiding, and even then... Considering the Japanese are playing a condensed economy, like, it's really hard to catch any villages off guard without spearmen being there close by. Cavalry is not an option for Lash. And the trouble for the Byzantines, he's not investing in just normal cavalry. It's not like his horsemen. They are proper expensive ones. They're the cataphracts. Trying to get more siege on the map, but we definitely got to see a switch away from those cavalry. Be a big mistake if he doesn't. The big concern is that, well, this number of mangonels is kind of hurtful as well, because if Lash wants to try and counter the spearmen, tries to go for archers, well, the mangonels are a problem. So it might be a case where he needs archers and springles. Trouble with that is, then how do you deal with the ozutsu? Because the range on these guys are incredibly good. Almost the same, I think it's the same range as the longbowman, by the way. That should tell you something. With 3 springles, looking healthy for Demu. Going to be engaging. The cataphracts can't take the fight. Great mangonel shot there by the Japanese. It's funny, very difficult here to push forward. Does lose one of the mangonels though on the retreat, and he's getting pushed back. 2 trebuchets as well. I love this clutch play with the ranged siege. Going to push away the production building somewhat. All right, just building up now. Take a look at this. The army here for Japanese. 81 versus 81. This is going to become a little bit difficult. The match is definitely evened up, and I feel like Lash has really struggled to see this game out. He's in a strong position for so long, but he never really managed to capitalize. I do wonder whether that Imperial Age was a little bit premature. Possibly could have done more damage in the Castle Age, potentially. It's difficult, though. Against the Japanese, they hold on so well, especially with the Shogunate Castle. And he is going to get the elite upgrade to the Samurai. This is looking dangerous. Don't forget as well the Japanese, with the blacksmith or the forged techs, they actually get 4 melee attack extras. Well, not extras, but in total, rather than the other civilizations just getting 3. We see more ozutsu coming out. The splash damage on these guys is so hard to deal with, especially you can't get close to them. But he's grouping up a large army. Now, Lash does have a lot of resources in the bank. I would love to see him drop a lot more production buildings, just so that when he does lose his army, he can replenish them quickly, and it'd be best to put them on the front line. The problem is he actually tried that, to be fair. A lot of those buildings are going down now to the trebuchet. It does have a tower elephant, so we see Byzantine elephants. All you elephant enjoyers out there, you'll be happy today. But can you get the Sacred Site in the north now, Lash, to get the 2 Sacred Site? Now, possibly Sacred Site victory is a win condition. The trouble is we're heading to this phase of the game that the Japanese really excel, by the way. Getting plenty of resources in. They're going to fight, and even if Japanese do lose their army, he's going to be able to replace it pretty well. The Trampled Pit comes out on the mangonels. No, but the Spearmen there! We talked about this. The Spearmen, they're going to absolutely annihilate those cataphracts. This is a huge fight right outside the base of the Japanese, but the cataphracts get absolutely melted, and now with the ozutsu firing on the backline, there's no siege on the field here for Lash. He can't. There are springolds. The Tower Elephant going to try and push their way through. There are ranged units there for Lash, but he's going to lose all of them with the samurai on a Bagation fighting on the shoulders of the samurai. And those spearmen heading in. Those cavalry have to back away. There's no way those cavalry will win this. And he's down to 54 military. He's about to be overrun, you feel, for Lash. That army is going to keep replenishing. And how does he find a counter to the ozutsu? This army's pushing in very hard for the Japanese. The cavalry absolutely melt to those spearmen. And he's finding it difficult. He's being pushed back. Holy moly, the range for the ozutsu. It's just so difficult to deal with this. It's not just that as well. It's the splash damage that's coming out. And he's going to take out this keep very quickly. I don't think this keep lasts for much longer. 15 units to garrison inside. But again, that's going to go down in the blink of an eye. I mean, he's going to try and repair it, I think, there. But that's not going to work, I don't think. He's going to lose the what army he ever does have here, Lash. And that is a pretty big opening to his base. Those villages are going to go down. It's not just the fact he lost the fight and lost the military. He's going to lose all these villages as well. And the ozutsu, that is massing up a large amount. And there it is, ladies and gentlemen. Demu, he takes the game on Himeyama. Lash taps out, and he was seemingly in a good position. But in the end, the Japanese army was just too strong. If you're watching on YouTube, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, do give the video a thumbs up. Take care, and see you next time.